Japan, being the easternmost country on the Eurasian continent and an island nation, had few cultural interactions with other countries, which led to the formation of many cultures unique to Japan. However, in the 15th century, Japan entered the age of exploration, centering on Europe, and with the great development of nautical technologies such as the compass, Japan also came into cultural contact with European countries. Now, in this video, I would like to explain in detail such a face-to-face encounter between Japan and Christianity, and how Christianity penetrated Japan and how it has been treated. The first encounter between Japan and Christianity began in 1549 when Xavier landed in Japan as a missionary. At that time, Japan was in a turbulent period, and there was a constant struggle over who would rule the country. Therefore, each region was like a country, with local feudal lords governing their lands. In many areas, missionaries from foreign lands were avoided and clashed with the Japanese, but the feudal lord of Hirado, located in present-day Nagasaki Prefecture, protected Christian missionaries. It is said that there was a thought that acceptance of Christianity was important to conduct trade with foreign countries and to build good relations. As a result, even during the Edo period 1603 to 1867, when the country was closed to the outside world, Dejima, the only port open to the outside world, was established and flourished as a trading center of Japan. Another reason for the spread of Christianity in Japan was the presence of Oda Nobunaga, who was on the verge of unifying the country. Oda Nobunaga, who did not reject innovation, approached Christian missionaries early on and increased his power by actively engaging in trade, importing guns, and utilizing them as a tactic. It is also said that Oda Nobunaga was tolerant of Christianity, which was at odds with Buddhism, because he disliked Buddhist forces that sided with their opponents and showed rebellious attitudes. However, Oda Nobunaga was killed by the treason of his own vassal, Akechi Mitsuhide. Later, during the reign of another vassal, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who later built Osaka Castle, a famous tourist attraction in Osaka, he continued to have a tolerant attitude toward missionary activities. However, at the same time that he allowed missionary activities, imported products that were not available in Japan, and tried to increase national power, he was also wary of invasion of Japan. The world situation at the time was not reassuring for Japan either, as maritime nations such as Portugal, Spain, and the Netherlands were colonizing Southeast Asia. As an indication of their wariness of foreign powers, trade with other countries during this period was called Nanban trade, which means barbarians from the south in Japanese. The Jesuits who came to Japan to proselytize did not come overland from Europe, but came by sea through Southeast Asia, so from the Japanese perspective they appeared to be people from the south. In fact, an event occurred that made people more wary of Christianity. When Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who was about to conquer all of Japan, toured Nagasaki to conquer the Shimazu family, the feudal lords who ruled Kyushu, he was shocked. Omura Sumitada, the feudal lord who ruled Nagasaki, was an ardent Christian and had donated land in Nagasaki to Christianity. Because Christianity is a monotheistic religion, he burned many of the temples and shrines that existed on the land of Nagasaki, effectively witnessing an invasion. Not only that, but we also discovered that the people who had existed in Japan and were forced to live as slaves, some 400,000 people, had disappeared. The local feudal lords and merchants were selling the slaves to other countries as part of their trade. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, feeling a growing sense of crisis, issued a decree against the Christian missionaries, banning them from the country. Also, an edict of prohibition was issued against Christians in Japan. However, Hideyoshi, who wanted to continue trade with other countries, did not follow the policy of seclusion during the Edo period 1603 to 1867, but showed a tolerant attitude toward trade with trading ships. He also did not impose large-scale oppression on believers in Japan, and missionaries were able to continue their Christian missionary activities with tacit approval. However, one incident changed Toyotomi Hideyoshi's attitude. This was the San Felipe incident that occurred in 1596. The San Felipe was a Spanish merchant ship that was responsible for trade between the colonies of Mexico and the Philippines. It carried Mexican silver to the Philippines and Philippine products to Mexico. Since there were many pirates in the Pacific Ocean at that time, these merchant ships were loaded with many cannons and had an appearance that did not look like a merchant ship at first glance. One day, the San Felipe was shipwrecked in what is now Kochi Prefecture, Japan. The crew told local officials that Spain was planning to colonize Japan in the near future. Hearing this, Toyotomi Hideyoshi was outraged and considered the active missionary activities of the Franciscans, who came to Japan after the Jesuits, to be a provocation against the prohibition, and ordered Ishida Mitsunari, the magistrate of Kyoto, to capture and execute all Franciscans and Christians living in Kyoto. 24 Christian officials, including missionaries and devoted Christians such as Paul Miki, were captured in Osaka and Kyoto, and the decision was made to execute them in Nagasaki, where many Christians lived, as an example. 2 more were captured along the way, and 26 of them wished to be executed not at the usual place of execution but at a place similar to the hill of Golgotha where Christ was executed. Their cenotaph remains at the site and has become one of the famous tourist attractions in Nagasaki Prefecture. This event led Toyotomi Hideyoshi to take a stronger stance against Christianity, issuing a new edict banning Christianity, demanding the conversion of Christian feudal lords, and depriving those who did not comply of their positions as feudal lords. In fact, Takayama Ukon, a feudal lord who ruled Takatsuki in present-day Osaka Prefecture, followed his own faith and ceased to be a feudal lord. Along with the deterioration of relations with Portugal and Spain, which were propagating Christianity, events also occurred that worsened relations with the Chinese dynasties of the time, Ming Dynasty and Korea. This was the invasion of Korea by Toyotomi Hideyoshi. At that time, Japan had a reason to actively trade with Ming Dynasty. That was the import of raw silk. Silk fabrics made from raw silk imported from Ming China were of very high quality and were in very high demand in Japan, as the warlords of the time liked to wear them. Portugal took notice of this. Portugal donated to the Ming Dynasty a map of the world drawn with the Ming Dynasty in the center, created by a man named Matialik, and established friendly relations with the Ming Dynasty. Although there are some problems with the names of places in Japan depicted on this map, such as the fact that there are many discrepancies with actual place names, it is clear that Portugal had conducted a thorough research on Japan, as it is noted that there is a lot of gold and silver in Japan. Portugal had established friendly relations with the Ming Dynasty, monopolized the raw silk trade, and profited by selling the purchased raw silk to Japan at high prices. Sensing a crisis, Japan worked to limit the trade of raw silk to Sakai and Osaka and Nagasaki, thereby restricting demand elsewhere and preventing prices from skyrocketing. And by bringing the Ming under its control, it aimed to secure trade that did not go through Portugal. To this end, Toyotomi Hideyoshi sent soldiers to Joseon to secure overland routes. Toyotomi Hideyoshi requested Joseon to cooperate in his campaign, but Korea refused, and so he sent troops to Joseon. Traces of this conflict can be seen in northern Kyushu, not far from Joseon. The ruins of a castle called Nagoya Castle exist in present-day Karatsu City, Saga Prefecture. It is said to have been a magnificent castle with a 5-story keep and a spacious castle grounds, not unlike that of the warring feudal lords who ruled the area. Although the castle is now abandoned and only the stone walls remain, the castle was built as the most important base for the invasion of Joseon and is registered as one of the 100 best castles in Japan. The 200,000 soldiers gathered in this castle prepared for the invasion of Joseon and took control of the whole Joseon region, led by warring feudal lords such as Yukinaga Konishi and Kiyomasa Kato. A painting of the invasion of Pusan, Joseon, shows numerous Japanese ships on the sea. However, Joseon's war situation became unfavorable, and Joseon asked for reinforcements from the Ming Dynasty. The battle became a stalemate, and peace negotiations were held between the Ming Dynasty and Japan, but the negotiations broke down because the Ming side recognized Hideyoshi only as the king of Japan and demanded his complete withdrawal from the Korean peninsula. As a result, war broke out again, but during the war, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the general-in-chief, died, and Japan had to withdraw. This battle still remains a grudge between Joseon and Japan to this day. This battle also contributed to the end of Toyotomi's reign. The war against Joseon was a burden on the vassals, but they were not able to win the war, so there was no return for them. In the days when warriors ruled the world, a master-servant relationship was established by receiving rewards for active service in exchange for following the ruler. In the previous war, no reward was generated, which caused a rift in the master-servant relationship. Tokugawa Ieyasu, originally one of Toyotomi Hideyoshi's vassals, then reigned as the new ruler by waging war against the Toyotomi family without Hideyoshi and winning. This was the beginning of the Edo period. The history of oppression against Christians you may imagine is the Edo period. However, as explained in this video, there is a history that Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who feared that Christian ideas would spread throughout Japan and invade the country, also suppressed Christians. In every age, tragic massacres and wars have occurred. What we can do today is to look at past conflicts not only from one side, but also from a bird's-eye view, and strive to prevent future conflicts from occurring. In the next video, we will discuss the relationship between Japan and Christianity after the Toyotomi era ended and the Tokugawa regime took over. Thank you for watching the video until the end. This channel provides information on Japanese history and tourist attractions in Japan to help people overseas learn more about Japan. Please subscribe to this channel before you lose track of it, and please leave your comments and requests for what you would like to see explained.